So, as you may know, I've been working on a breeding project for a little while, and I've been consistently pheno hunting that. Now, pheno hunting is something I've talked about before, specifically about phenotypes, and if you're experiencing growing, you probably have heard of this. If you haven't, I'll explain a little bit before we get into the tips, but here's some tips that have helped me so far for pheno hunting some of the best genetics I've ever found. Stay tuned.
Like we always do about this time.
This video is for educational purposes only, YouTube. This video is brought to you by AC Infinity. Now, whether it be air control, air quality, lighting, or your tent itself, or the entire kit, AC Infinity has got you locked down, and they continue to innovate time after time again with just amazing products. Now, their products go very fast, well, because they're in high demand. Supply and demand is a real thing, and when you got a supply that's as great as this, you better jump on it quick. And when you do, make sure you use CLtv at checkout and you'll save some money on your order. So if you're new here, my name is Rob and this is CLtv, and we talk all things herb. Today in particular, we're going to be talking about phenotypes. If you're an experienced grower, do you have any pheno hunting tips that you could share? Drop them below in the comment section. Well, if you don't know, a phenotype is a unique characteristic expression that each genetic will have. Now, when you get a genotype, this essentially is going to be the makeup or the characteristics that are going to be within this gene. The environmental impact and the different traits within this is going to affect this phenotype. Now, when you pop multiple seeds, it's similar to having a brother and sister from the same parent, or in this case, two sisters from the same parent. Now, one may turn out taller and more slender and maybe more athletic. The other may be shorter and more robust and not as athletic.
She's got thick ankles.
Well, they do have the same genetics, but one may take more traits from this side versus the other side. Now, when we're pheno hunting, we're looking for something that's going to be best for our space. And if you're looking to, let's say, get into a breeding project, you may be looking to find something that's suitable for multiple spaces. The one thing that you can't guarantee is when you pop a genetic that it's going to be the exact phenotype that you're looking for. And this is where hunting for the phenotype becomes a thing. Now, the first tip that I have would be to know what you're looking for. Create a criteria for yourself to help you select this phenotype. For example, what traits are you looking for that are most important? These desirable traits could be the overall growth and structure. It could be terpenes and flavonoids, pest resistance, ability to handle harsher conditions, overall speed of growth, really a variety of traits. So what I'd recommend is to write down a list and kind of start this as your checklist. Now, if you're looking for something that's a faster flowering cultivar, you're going to want to look for a plant that is a faster flowering cultivar. Put that on your top. Maybe looking for something that has the colors or the hues that's more exotic nowadays. Add that to the list. Looking for something that's pest resistant or resilient to stress. Add that to the list. For the most part, it's going to be subjective, but there's going to be some overlapping things that almost every grower is going to be looking for. And then, of course, is going to be good smoke.
Some of the sticky icky, huh?
But if you have a variety of cultivars that you're working with and you're going to be digging through a lot of different genotypes, you're going to potentially expect a lot of phenotypes. And depending on the filial generation of this cultivar, if it's an F1, F2, or F3, the variety that you're going to be finding may be more robust. So at this point, you're going to want to do the next tip, and that would be to consistently document everything. Now, when you're in a situation of trying to find that particular phenotype that you want to keep and clone and potentially use as a breeding project, you're going to want to document majority of this. Now, even for the highly experienced growers like myself, who usually don't keep a super detailed, grow journal, for this, I do. When it comes down to popping new genetics, I consistently will work from the beginning to the end of jotting down anything that stands out, that's different, anything that I've done to treat this plant differently, or scenarios that might make this plant more desirable or less desirable. In a perfect world, all the plants would grow really good and everything would be perfect in veg, but even in those times, you may run into different issues, like a plant may be more susceptible to stress, or take longer to veg, or take longer to bounce back from certain training techniques. Now, in this case, you may forget down the road when the plants flower and do great, but at that point, this may make it a little less desirable than its sisters. And you may want to note this and document it for down the road when you may decide to use this again. Documentation is important. Now, the only way to make sure that you're keeping this all right and concise is to have the next tip in line. And that would be to make sure that you're utilizing a controlled environment. Now, when you're dealing with pheno hunting, that phenotype is influenced by the environment. So if you don't have a controlled space, it's kind of hard to tell which react to your traditional setup. Now, if you're in an open room that has fluctuations in temperature, humidity, you may notice that some plants are more susceptible to stress than others. And again, if you're not looking for a breeding project, you may not necessarily want to have stress tests.
I don't give a fuck.
You're wanting to nurture this plant to be the best growing plant that you can. Now, again, for me, if I'm pheno hunting, I'll probably want to see some of these traits to make sure I don't keep something around that's too finicky or something that has intersex traits and hermaphrodites midway through flower. Now these are important things to note, but of course if everything's not controlled, then it's going to be tough to do. This is why oftentimes when it comes down to it, I'll keep something in an open room or an open space, but I'll always utilize a grow tent, specifically AC Infinity. Big shout out to AC Infinity, of course. They're the main sponsor of this channel. You can use discount code CLtv at checkout for any of their products. But even if you're utilizing a closed space, you want to make sure that it's dialed in tight, right, and that you have it completely controlled as much as you can. It doesn't have to be completely sealed, but controlled and dialed in to the point that you can maintain your proper temperature, humidity, light schedules, watering, the whole 9 yards essentially. My next tip would be always clone. I've been a fool and I've let the best ones go because I didn't clone them when they didn't seem ideal in flower. A lot of times these are cultivars that I need to grow more times than once, because sometimes that first run from seed may not be the best run. Even though a lot of times you will see the most vigorous growth and the hardiest plants, it may be something a little finicky and need some time to adjust to your setup. Clones ensure that each phenotype could be evaluated properly in different controlled environments. You can run different methods of training, feeding, automation, lighting, different tests to see if it's really worth having in your garden. But that can be hard to do in one run. My rule of thumb is to grow a plant at least 2 times before I decide to let it go. And really that's only something I've started doing after like 10 to 15 years of growing. Never let a plant grow just one time. The only one that I did that with was that Donuts triploid, and that's because it hermed out and was mild as can be. So she went. And don't forget, I'm still working on the seed to harvest video. It's just taking me a lot longer than I anticipated because I'm struggling with motivation since I didn't love that plant. But nonetheless, cloning your plants is definitely going to help you ensure that you'll maintain this cultivar, and also that you'll be able to see it in different conditions to see if you do want to maintain it and keep it. And that could play into my next tip, which is hunt with a grow me. And this isn't always optional, but sometimes you can hunt with a grow me online. We've got the CLtv Discord, From the Stash Discord, the Growers Gauntlet Discord, AC Infinity Discord, the Dude Grows community, Mr. Grows forum, ICANN's community, Northern Scroggers community. Anybody that you could think of, welcome to the grow tent. A lot of us have other people that are in there who are in similar situations and they don't have someone else to grow with. Well, you can get a pack and another person can get a pack, and maybe you two can meet up and find those phenotypes together. There's also the option to just have grow alongs to be able to see what other people are finding within these packs, because not everybody wants to buy 10 packs to pheno hunt. Not everybody has the space or the money or the time to be able to find that particular phenotype that they're after. This is where growing along in a community is extremely helpful. I've been really lucky that locally, in the past, I've had a couple people that I could grow with where I'll pop half a pack, they'll pop half a pack, and we're able to kind of pheno hunt alongside and to see which ones that we like the most. Well, the environments are a little different. It's an indoor grow, so it's pretty comparable in Michigan, down the street from each other, really. The biggest thing is preference. As long as you have a variety of seeds to work with, you should be all right. But it's not always great to grow along with somebody else, because there are people out there who are just scandalous and won't share, and that happens. But if you do find a good community like this one here, or any others that I mentioned, or hopefully one locally, you could potentially speed up this process a lot more because you've doubled the grow essentially by partnering with somebody else. So when it boils down to it, everybody's approach can be different, of course, but the overlapping theme is we want to hunt something good. Now, if you don't want to hunt, of course, there's options. There's clones out there. Seedsman's got clones. They also got great genetics. And if you're looking for some, use discount code CLTV. But there's also options to just breeding your own and trying to find your own project and something that works good for you. Oftentimes, even in that case, you'll still be doing some pheno hunting. I feel like when it comes down to getting some of the best cultivars out there, they've always boiled down to finding the right phenotype. It's never just that particular strain, it's usually some sort of subcategory within that one. It's the Gorilla Glue number 4 only, it's the Mac 1. It's all about a particular phenotype. And I highly recommend, if you haven't done any pheno hunting, maybe start now if you have the capability to. And also, stay lifted. Peace.
Are you a grower? Are you tired of lugging around too many bottles? Is it too expensive? Is it so confusing? Tired of reading feed charts? Well, guess what? There is an easier way. Introducing the Stash Blend. You can now get your bag of Stash Blend premium additives that you can add to your garden using just about any base nutrients. Go to stashblend.com and get your order today.